See myself. So I thought I would not be here alone today, but I am. So I'm going to talk about a couple things that I hope will bring some wonderful wisdom to your wonderful Wednesday. And first of all, in a world where pickleball is accepted as the most fun sport on the planet, I think at the moment, I don't know why I chose to revisit tennis after I don't know, 40 years or something. But for me, tomorrow is going to be my first introduction to pickleball because I think it's got to be easier. I mean, tennis is really, really fun. I really believe that it's very important to throw ourselves into challenging experiences just to make entrepreneurship easier or self-employment easier or the rest of your life happier. And there are a million reasons why. But what I want to talk about today is my youngest son, which is crazy, just turned 18, and one of his lovely friends gifted him a stack of books, which in and of itself is lovely. But I picked up one of them. Do y'all remember this book? I don't know if this shows up backwards, but I don't know how to flip it. I'll have to flip it. I don't know. Anyway, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. So I was perusing this morning, just remembering I marked a page that I want to go back to. Because as you know, the practice of opening up to a page is always fascinating to see what you open up to. And I was surprised to see that the subtitle was an inquiry into values, although I know that it's all about like Zen and it goes through these different values and anxiety and boredom, like when you're up against things and it's a metaphor. But what really struck me is, remember how I think it came out like early 70s, 74. So I looked in here on Bantam Books, and they're considered new age books, which is really interesting. But it's almost embarrassing that I think there's maybe one or two of this long list of books they recommend or that they published that are very similar that I did not read. And this was a time when all of these books that they were coming out, like the metaphor for do you remember like Golf in the Kingdom, and where business and spirituality came together? They were calling it New Age at that time. Now they would call it basic quantum physics that everyone knows and implements in their morning routine or whatever. But what I find really interesting as it relates to coaching is that even again, with all of this information, the same books have been written over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm releasing a book soon that I'm perfectly aware that all of the information contained therein is easily accessible to all of us. And yet when I'm with a client, I was talking with a client late last night because she was in a bit of a crisis, and it's the beauty of coaching is really, it's like, if you guys remember this book, it's being there in the moment that the motorcycle breaks down and you're standing there and they're talking about clogged valves or something, I don't know. And there's a relatable metaphor to the moment where the coach can really facilitate not only the awareness of the value, but literally shift the energy to open up into possibility. And people often ask, like, well, what is the difference between counseling or therapy or whatever? Well, that's a piece of it for sure, because you're not denying all of the baggage and the stuff and the trauma and the patterns, but there's this ability to kind of energetically work together to move into that next moment of possibility where you're literally shifting the next frame in the movie. Like if your life is a movie, or I often am talking about like the revision of a masterpiece, right? So in that scenario, you're really just revising the next paragraph or shifting the character, like your pattern interrupt pattern. It's a pattern interrupt. And we all know all about all of this stuff already, right? NLP and, you know, I was about to say shape shifting, but what I meant was state shifting, where you're shifting your state. And, you know, anybody who's worked with Tony Robbins has been doing that for decades. Like all of these healing modalities, these somatic modalities, like everything is still available, is more readily available than ever. And yet the same human pattern. So when in this book, when they're talking about one of the most profoundly important bestsellers of our time, why is that? Because man is always searching for himself. And that's, so I just thought it was really interesting that this fell on my desk today. And when I looked through the titles, you know, they say that it's a miniature study of the art of rationality itself. Okay, that's fascinating. And then they go into Greek philosophy and everything else. But when you look at the list of titles in here, the 70s were really the age of metaphorical books. Even the titles, you know, you've got, oh my gosh, do you remember this? The Turning Point, The Way of the Shamas, and in the Art of, and then there were all these Zen books, right? Order Out of Chaos, The Medusa and the Snail, like, and that was when all the Richard Bach stuff came out. So coaching is exploding right now. And there is a reason for that. It's because we need other people and we need the right person. And we don't necessarily need to be like in therapy for 20 years, like they told us in the 70s. Now it's just awareness and shifting. And yet that human contact when you're with the right person is the single most powerful thing. Well, maybe not. Maybe the single most powerful thing are small groups of people, because then that energy helps you shift. And the things that are possible are beyond, like I see these moments, these aha moments when I'm working with someone. And you feel it when you're working with a coach. Guys, you even feel it in tennis. And I'm pretty sure tomorrow I'll be feeling it in pickleball. So I guess my point today is that books are cool. And this is an old book. And as a matter of fact, there was a special offer. You could buy a Bantam book for only 50 cents. And you just cut out this registration and send it in, and it expires in May of 86. That's crazy. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that, about those aha moments with another person. And we need time alone, but we're not meant to go alone. And if there's anything I'm learning from interviewing these coaches, it is that when you talk to someone who's a really good coach, at least in my opinion, there is this in very obvious heart head connection. And they really, it's like what we live for the moments when the person that we're working with, the client, just gets it. You can feel the energy shift, and then they take the action and they get a result. So because we're in this for the results, yes, and the joys and the journey and all of that matters, and that's what allows you to serve other people too. But and it does, what the other thing that I was really thinking about was this inquiry into values. I spent a lot of time working with my clients on values that people do not understand very often what it means. We have such a knee-jerk reaction. We all think that we're super connected to our values, and yet it's incredible how lacking we are in a really deep connection to what our values really, really, truly are. And that will drive everything. So a true awareness around that, rather than, yes, I value, integrity and honesty and all that stuff. And it's not that we don't, it's just that what the heck does that really mean? And this is a time where, like, okay, an inquiry into values. I'm not saying you have to go out and read this. I'm not even sure I really want to reread it, to be honest. But I do thank Celeste for giving my son a bunch of books, and I love you, and thank you for celebrating birthdays with us. But taking a deep inquiry, our own inquiry into our own values. I know that, what's that guy's name? John DeMartini. He does a super deep dive into values that I did a number of years ago that I thought he really, really does get it. And he's very good at connecting. He's very good at this, connecting the mystical with the very practical. So, okay, well, happy, wonderful Wednesday. And if you're interested, we're doing this interview series, quite fascinating. It's free. You can sign up, and we're asking the hard questions to coaches, because we really want people to have an opportunity to be with the right person, to understand, why would I hire a coach? So many people hire coaches and they're deeply disappointed. Many other people hire them and they are elated and they get fabulous results. We want to close the gap, and we just want to make sure that everyone who wants to know has an opportunity to really know, really ask hard questions. And anybody who has worked with a coach, for better or for worse, who wants to come on and talk to me about it, I've got to get that going too, because I think that is really helpful. It's getting too hot and sunny. Okay, have a beautiful Wednesday, everyone. Do something remarkable, and not even remarkable, just be kind to someone. Make someone else's day, and it will make yours as well.